achieve success with Global.Media.com. Every step forward is a new beat to your drum. Achieve success with Global.Media.com. Let's celebrate it with or without champagne.
Hello. Here we are on a Saturday with Annie and Scott. Welcome, all of you. I don't know who's here yet. So, I tend to, when I start my shows late that way, people get time to get here, Scott. So, if you're here, my friends, drop us a comment, say hi, say something. Tell us where you're joining us from. Maybe say something about our topic today. Tell us even what you're up to. Just say anything, right? So we'd love to welcome you properly. I'm looking for my phone so I can start my YouTube. So Scott, you will learn YouTube tricks. I got 2 phones, so I got 2 LinkedIn, 2 Google identities. And
really?
Watch hours always helps, Scott. Always helps. How are you? How are you doing anyway?
Really good, thank you. On this Saturday afternoon, welcome and thank you for this. I appreciate you, Annie. So yes, really good, thank you. Just busy. We're obviously talking about our forthcoming event in Ghana. Busy there, likewise. So yeah, just preparedness and then ready for the book launch. So exciting times.
Yeah, I wonder which one's more exciting. They're both as exciting. Go on, you tell me. Which one floats your boat the more?
Okay, I'd say selfishly the book launch, of course, because it's something new to me in the first. I've spoke on stages in the past, so the opportunity obviously to speak for and with William at No Human is Useless. I think it's more the travel, the excitement. The last time I was in Africa was 35 years ago. So
same here.
Yeah.
Same here, amazingly.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
So I grew up in Nigeria, but I think last time I went there I was probably 25. So literally, it was then, right?
Right. Yeah, I was 1991-ish, I think, when I went.
Yeah. But no, maybe to just be later that I went. Just be late. But it's been a generation.
Yes.
Michael, of course, I see you. Welcome, Michael. You're always a blessing, my friend. Dr. Aurelio, glad you're here as well. Thank you so much for joining us. You're the first to speak. Brilliant. So you get to meet my friend Scott.
Hello.
I'm hoping to arrange a meeting with Dr. Aurelio. He's in the US.
Hello, Scott.
He's a doctor of many things. This man's super qualified. I'm always amazed as people got multiple degrees. But welcome, my friends. Whoever's here, drop us a comment, say hi, like Dr. Aurelio has. Look, you're welcome to come in the studio. And I say we'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic. I don't like to talk to myself or to talk to ourselves because that's rather boring. That's like a webinar, right? No, I like to do conversations with my friends. And if you're here, you're my friend. So Dr. Aurelio, if you want the link, just put in the comments, put in the chat here. Send the link, please, Annie, and then I'll send it to your DM. So otherwise, the link is on the event page on LinkedIn. So if that's a struggle for you to get, then just let me know. I'll send you a link quite happily, right? So no, we'll get to our topic first of all. I like to. What am I relaxing? I'm amusing myself, and maybe I'm using you too, right? This is before the fun part starts, right? Where we just have to carry on talking. There's more people here, so do drop us a comment, my friends. Do say hello. So I'd love to welcome you properly. That way, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time because your time is valuable. You could be doing anything else today, and here you are with us. That surely deserves for me to say welcome in the right way. Anyway, let me go back to my friends in the studio because that's equally fun. And Scott, look, I think maybe it's me because it's not my bestseller, and because I haven't done a big stage before. I'm excited by both of those two things. Your book launch is exciting though. That's the day Annie comes alive. All you lot think I'm nice onto book launch day. Then you suddenly realize, all my clients realize, my friends realize I'm I am hard work because I'm chasing you all day. Like do this, do that, do that, do that. Sam, I see you. Welcome, Sam. I'm glad you're here. Some sort of way in Mexico. You get to know who they are in good time, Scott.
Yes.
So you'll get to share, right? So but now speaking on William's stage, I said 2,500 people. Even if it's half full, that's still a lot of people. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Yes, it is.
Will I freeze? Of course, I won't freeze. Will I say what I want to say? Maybe not.
Maybe not. No, we have limited time, so I'm sure we will hopefully do our best.
I know we've got limited time. So 15 minutes is longer than I thought we had. I said that's a long time, really, because it's long enough to plan a lot of things to say, and then time runs out on you.
It does, yes, and not enough time. So yeah, you either speak quicker or say less. That's it.
I can't speak quicker because I want to speak slowly, annoyingly slowly. 3 words, maybe 4 in each sort of mini sentence. That's the way I look at it, right?
Yes.
Welcome, Lisa. How are you doing? Happy Saturday, my friend. Lisa's my best friend on LinkedIn. Apart from Lisa. Lisa's my best friend.
Happy Saturday.
And you too, Sam. You're my best friend too. The Lisa is my best friend. Sorry, everyone. If you don't like it, what can I say, right? Me and Lisa have been together for years. Yeah, she's a menopause expert. And she's in Trinidad and Tobago. Wow. We need an event there, Scott.
Absolutely.
That's what we do an event sometime. I need to go there.
Yeah,
you should just to see Lisa, right? But also drink their drink and enjoy the beaches, enjoy the food as well.
By the way,
one day, Lisa,
Trinidad has the best friends. That was a great choice. My best friend's also from Trinidad, so it's a small world.
It is. It really is. It really is. Jeremy, I see you too. Glad you're here. Jeremy's in US. So he's a marketing genius. So I'm glad you're here, my friend. How are you doing?
Hi, Jeremy.
And also, that's Dr. Sekha. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's all the way from India. Brilliant, wow. Brilliant. Look, my friends and I said more of you are here, the better. If you're here, now say hello. Well, now let's start the show, Scott, and then we'll get to our friends on stage to come and share. All of you are welcome to come on stage. Lisa's not going to come on stage unless it's a month or Sundays. But she has her own show. I don't know why she doesn't come on stage for our events. She doesn't. Yeah, Lisa's Lisa. So that's what I do for who she is. Right, my friends. Look, we're here for many reasons. I don't tend to do shows on Saturdays not anymore. I used to do loads of shows on Saturday, 2 or 3 shows every Saturday. I like my weekends to work. Yeah, that's why I like. That's why I just said to work. I can catch up on stuff. But today, we're here because Scott's book is coming out. I get excited about books, right? So I pressed the button on the e-book today, and I'm just about to press the button on the print book. So, I'm more than excited for all that's coming. So this event is part of it. So we'll have a book launch. So we're going to launch this book on the 17th, I believe.
That's right.
I'm looking at my diaries. That's why I'm making sure. So of course, as with any book launches, the aim is to make my author friends, international bestsellers. So we need you to come and buy the book, my friends. But see, this is one of those rare books I think everyone needs. Again, Scott, people think we rehearse this event. We don't. Scott's as surprised as you what I'm going to say. Everyone's surprised I'm surprised what I'm going to say half the time, right? So working on Scott's book. There was a stage I thought, oh, this is morbid. I don't want to think about death. Then I realized it's not even about death. I was like, I don't want to start crying because no one can see me crying. So, it was emotional, Scott. Saying that there were bits, writing your letter to your relatives, for example. And trying to work out how you respond when your loved one is on their deathbed, literally.
Yes.
These are things that I guess we don't think about. I don't think.
No.
I haven't had many experiences of death, thankfully. And I know that sounds weird, my friends, but I'm like a nomad. So I move around. My family in Nigeria, so my granddad died. I had no chance of going to the funeral, for example. I think the last death I had was my wife's grandmother, 2008. Yeah, so that is the last time I had to go to a funeral. Maybe because I've got no friends, so I don't get to know people who die, right? I'm joking. My friends are online, amazingly. So the Michaels and the Sams of this world are my friends. So the Lisas of this world. There's many more of them, right? I feel fortunate. Yes, I feel fortunate. I haven't experienced death and the last moments of many people full stop, right? So my wife's parents who brought me to Cornwall, I brought us to Cornwall, they're 85, something like that. So I'm like, you two should be on your way. But they're not. They're drinking, smoking, and they're enjoying life. In Cornwall, Scott, no one dies. Literally.
No.
They come to die, but then they realize it's so nice. They're like, we're not going to die.
Yeah.
They walk up and down the streets. You're like, why are you old? Why are you still walking? And if you go to doctor's surgery here, you realize there's a lot of old people who refuse to die. So it's a funny thing, right? And so your book made me think, really, how would I handle those moments? So before I stop talking, my friends, there was one. This was my grandmother's funeral was one freaky experience, Scott. It freaked me out, and it was we're in Nigeria, right, as a kid. So of course, is it a wake? I think there's a wake. Yeah, there's a wake. So you have to walk past the body. I thought, I could do about the conference call. I'm brave. I'm just gonna walk through the room. I'm gonna walk through the room, and that's that. Let me tell you, Scott. Now, when I got there, when I looked at my grandma, I nearly died myself. Literally, I don't know what happened. I nearly fainted. I think that's probably what it was. But I went rigid. I went ill, and that still sticks with me. So I don't think I like, the final chapter type thoughts. But your book makes you have to think about this thing. You have to make a plan. You have to mentally at least prepare and have a plan. I think that's it. I think our conversations today and our next event next week, it's more about the practical side and also the emotional side. But again, that I caveat all of that. That's Scott was going to share with you about what the book is to him. But I think I caveat all of that by saying, I guess we're saying, the best way to prepare for death is to live a good life. Strange that.
That's it.
That's what I learned from Scott's book. Anyway, enough talking from me. The book will be there. It'll be available for, I think, £1.25. What's that? Is that? I think it sounds like $150, which is a strange number because Amazon normally does 99 cents, $1.99, and so on and so forth. So I think this £1.25 means, we're ahead of the Americans with exchange rates, aren't we? So their money would less. I'll have to look on Amazon and see exactly what the number is, but literally say £1.25. So the most of it is $150 for the US or 99 cents. Yeah. So now do come and get the book, my friends. You find it useful.
So you off, sorry. So I want to make that change. So I want to add it to the website as we speak. So can you put the link in the chat so I can add it to the website now?
Not right now. Once we launch, yes.
Oh, it's not launched yet?
No. So the 17th is a launch party. Again, I will explain why I don't release my books until launch date, because I don't want anyone to buy the book until launch date. Because no, I want to make Scott a bestseller. That means we need to sell more books than anyone else in the world in the categories we're in. And believe you me, I take every purchase seriously.
I get what you're doing.
I don't waste them now. I'm not going to lie. No, my say Scott knows, and my friends get to know that if you want to really upset me, start selling books before launch date. I'll be like, I'm not talking to you ever again. You've broken my heart. How dare you?
I definitely get it. There's these YouTubers. They're called the Nelk Boys, and they had a strategy similar to this, where they would release merchandise, but they would only do merchandise on a certain day, so that, as you mentioned, it's sold out super quick. I mean, these guys would make like $2 million on a launch. So what you're doing is the best idea, because you want to build up that hype as much as possible, so that on that day, even if you throw in something like, hey, we'll be sold out, or we're not, what they'll do is they'll say like, we're never releasing more, those kind of like, they'll throw ins to get them to say, hey, oh, I gotta get it now. I gotta get, like, if you would say, hey, we're only selling 100 copies, for example. Now they're like, hey, I gotta get a copy, because if I don't get a copy, then he's never gonna release the book again. I'll lose my opportunity. So it's like, you're right. Building that hype is a really good thing.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you understand. Look, of course, I'll get you to tell Scott what you do. I know what you do, but so you're gonna have to start telling my friends, right?
Yeah. Hey, Scott, how you doing, sir? The reason I'm not on camera, I just got out of the shower, so
okay.
We don't want to see you naked, no, Sam.
Exactly.
No, don't
but
do it.
but I at least edit it now, where at least you can see my face off screen, so it's a little bit more professional.
I think
but
so.
I
think so.
What I do is I created a holistic medicine information portal called Decent Med, and we showcase different providers all around the world in this space, and we connect patients with providers. So we're in talks right now to add an energy healer, because that was the one thing we've been looking for that we didn't have, is Reiki and energy healing.
Okay.
But we feature everything from applied kinesiology, clinical kinesiology, nutrigenomics, general nutrition, and functional and holistic nutrition, detox and dietitians, various types of coaching, from health coaching to empowerment, to spiritual coaching, to trauma coaching. We feature hypnotherapy. We feature Ayurveda. We feature yoga and meditation specialists. As I mentioned earlier, we feature products. So right now, we currently have 3 kinds of products on the platform. One's called Happy DNA Candy, which is it's like a very suite of products that are all, she also has other services too, but they're a very suite of products that are all plant-based. We featured LifeWave stem cell patch, and we feature the book Solve Your Out of Control Eating. So with this book, and on the 17th, we now would feature 2 books featuring Annie's book as well. We also have 4 cancer documentaries. Well, 2 are documentaries, like legitimate style, and then the other 2 are dissertations, where I'm just in front of the camera. Actually, I'm not in front of the camera. You see the slideshow, and I'm breaking down, the data and the case studies, and then all that information is on the platform as well. We're available in 7 different languages. I don't want to miss anybody, so we also feature acupuncture and chiropractic, naturopathy, homeopathy. I don't want to miss anybody, so I think I got everything, though. Because people get mad, if you miss them. You touch everything, and then you miss that one group. But no,
Kundalini. I'm not sure that was mentioned. I have a few Kundalini specialists in my network.
So when it comes to Kundalini, I'm glad you mentioned that. So they didn't join the platform, but we did a documentary for a lady that does work in that space, mainly like somatic therapy. and fascia work and stuff like that. So we created a documentary. It was the first documentary we've ever made ourselves, and it's on her YouTube channel. But once we launch, or once we get a somatic therapist on platform, we'll add her video there. It will still be the page of whoever joins, but they'll get that video there just to drive traffic. But no, I think you're right. I think we got everything. So that's what we're building, and that's the plan. And I started doing this. Because at first I was doing the traditional networking and stuff like that, and I ran into Any at a networking event, and I'm starting to see that there's actually more value in doing this. So Any sends me. I mean, he sends me it. I try to come to all of them. It's hard to, because I'm doing other stuff. But as he's seen, I've tried to, since he sends them, I pretty much come to every single one, because he does more of these than networkers do. And as you can see, him and I have the overlap with the fact that his book is in this space. You just said you have a bunch of people in Kundalini. Lisa's a dietitian, and there's always a lot of people in this space. So I thought this is a lot better than networking. And this is kind of my new networking that I do.
Fantastic. Good.
Excellent.
Good for you. Well, that's excellent.
Hopefully you two get to meet.
Yeah, I want to know what you do, Scott.
Meeting, right?
I missed the beginning, so I wasn't able to hear what you actually do, Scott.
Well, he hasn't told us yet. So let's let Scott talk now. Scott, the mic is yours. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Samuel. Love to meet you all. So yes, I'm Scott. My background is primarily in property. So I've actually had 34 years in the property space. So from leaving school right up to and including the last few years. But for about 5 years now, I've been in the coaching space, the knowledge space. So my background starts ultimately when I had a shift and became Man in the Mirror. The backstory to that is that in 2016, unfortunately, I decided that things were too much for me and the world was a very challenging place for me. And I went into a dark hole. And unfortunately, that became a break moment. So I went into what we call or fashion a mental breakdown. And that was in 2016 around the April time. And I stuck in that space for about 3 years. So the whole cycle of, felt I wasn't worth enough, felt the world would be a better place without me, and that my friends and family would be better off without me. So that was a kind of a vicious repeat and rinse cycle of about 3 years, heavily medicated, pill for the ill, as it was. And I now know that, but I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And so I was prescribed medication for depression, which leads to the conference I'll be speaking at with Any in a couple of weeks' time, which is No Human is Useless. But in 2018, back end of, my sister, who was 54 at the time, became a little bit unwell. And then she was unfortunately diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, highly curable cancer, as we refer to. So it was positive. She didn't smoke. She was fairly fit and active. We didn't drink a huge amount, but they were very positive that she had a great opportunity to survive and thrive. Things progressed a little bit further forward. She wasn't getting any better, and further examination identified that unfortunately she had pancreatic cancer. So they then diagnosed that as incurable, pretty much gave her 6 to 12 months left to live. And then unfortunately she decided not to take any further medication, and that fast tracked, and she died about 5 weeks later. So she was diagnosed with the initial cancer to dead within 5 months. So that was my first real experience with what we'll call death. Somebody close to me. I've had grandparents and great grandparents, and I've attended funerals in the past, but perhaps never really aware of the intricacies or the emotional side or the spiritual journey around death. So 2019, she died in May. That led to the family just imploding, because my sister was the absolute glue that kept us together. She was an absolute ball of energy. She lived life. Her motto is life's too short, live it. So very much a motto of hers, because life's too short, ... live it. And that's how she lived her life. Very much a full-on kind of gal. And so the family imploded. I said that somebody needed to give her the best send-off possible. We had to celebrate her life and not mourn her death. Unfortunately, I couldn't really find anyone within the family network. My mum and dad were both still alive at the time, and they weren't obviously in a good space, because clearly it's not something I've experienced, but having to say goodbye to one of your children, I'm sure is potentially one of the worst things you can imagine. So my sister and I had another sister who was the middle sister. We got together. I decided to come off the pills. I went to the doctor and said, I'm done. They gave me a very heat-stark warning of, you will cold turkey and you will drop. And I just said, I need to feel. I need to feel again. So that's what happened. So I came off all the medication. I decided that this was my sort of tribute to my sister. I owed that to her as a respect. The fact that while she was sadly taking her last breath, I was wishing I was there with her, and if not, swapping places. So the day she died was very challenging. Very much felt quite selfish. Kind of the feeling I had around that was she was taking her last breath, and I, as I say, I felt quite selfish that I wanted to be in that space. So her death happened. We decided to make those changes, i.e. give her the great send-off she deserved, make it a party and a celebration of her life. And that led me then to my wife saying, would you like to bring about change? And I said, I'm ready. So after 3.5 years of pretty much sitting at home and carrying out bags of sympathy and eating on kind of a woe is me moments, then I decided I wanted to bring about change. So she introduced me to what we call a life coach, a chap called Harney, who I'll be forever grateful for. And after only one session, he said, I've found the root to all your cause problems. And I was like, wow, is it the life, the universe, my children, my wife, my work, my kids? None of those things. And he showed me a mirror. And that's where Man in the Mirror was ultimately arisen from. So I realized that if you want your life to change, that you have to be the change. So I started working on myself. I was introduced to The Secret. Some may mock it, but for me, it was an absolute eye-opener. It was revolutionary and revelatory in terms of going inward, looking at the secret, about the universal laws, things like cosmic karma and vibration, energy. And that led me on a journey of discovery and knowledge, learning. And so then I believed in cosmic karma. I started journaling a future better self. I lost weight. I started going to the gym, looking after myself, presenting love, coming from a different position of life. And my world changed. Within 2 years, my world had completely changed. My life entirely had changed for the better. So that was the kind of motivator really behind it. That led me then to get a job with a property company who also taught mindset. So I absolutely fell in love with that. They were coaching the mindset. So I decided to follow my studies and qualifications for NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So I became a practitioner in 2024, and then I became a master in also 24, so the back end of the year. So Man in the Mirror as a business was officially launched in June 2024, but I've been coaching about 5 years prior to that. It just wasn't official. It was either for other people or helping and supporting. And I just absolutely loved it. It was a gift of mine. I was able to read people's energy, very good at doing that. When people are around me, they often might say I'm okay or I'm fine, but unfortunately I can often sense otherwise. So vibrational matter, energy, call it what you will, that's something I just have a gift for. Very good at solving problems. So that then led to me joining a group of amazing people called the HNC, and I was introduced to a chap called William, who is running a conference called No Human is Useless, which is on the 21st of September in Ghana, which myself and Eni are very privileged to be speaking at. And that led to the book. They always say there's a book inside everyone. Some people should keep it there. But I decided that I'd been working on my book for about 1.5 years, which is obviously Before We Die, our final chapter. And it talks about the story really of my sister, but then unfortunately in late 23, my father was diagnosed with cancer as well, and basically gave him 1 year left to live. So in 22, apologies. So in November 2022, my father died, and yes, that gave me a life lesson of how to help people on their journey. I was able to gift my father some knowledge about me and the spirituality, and maybe it isn't our final chapter in this physical sense, this meat suit that we wear, and there's more of spirituality with life, of the universe and matter, and energy cannot be destroyed. So I learned so much, and I was able to gift that to my father, who was then in 84 years of life in the human world, and I helped him find peace soon before his death, which features in the book. So the book really is a guide. So it was written initially from my experience of having dealt with my sister. So there's the practical side of it, things like wills and trusts, and putting things like letters together for loved ones, and bank accounts, pensions, trusts, savings, which I'm sure we'll come on to later with Annie. And then the spiritual and the emotional side of just trying to say goodbye. But whilst you're helping somebody, it's also about putting your own affairs in order. So officially, I'm now positioned as a life coach, transformational NLP master practitioner, and author, soon to be, which will be on the 17th. And I'm very proud and excited about my launch of my book. But it's, as I say, the journey of the book is really about a personal journey for me. It's a guide to help others. So it includes appendices, which gives you practical hints and tips and tricks to really invoke those difficult conversations to have with loved ones, friends and families. But also, whilst you're helping those people to their final chapter, it's about also getting your own affairs and your own house in order. So it's a kind of a two-strand, really. So it's, the book is delivered at the person dying or the person helping them, and about both of you, really kind of like a synergy of working together, really. So so that's kind of me in a nutshell, and excited to launch, work with Annie, and obviously very excited about presenting as a motivational speaker in Ghana in the next couple of weeks. And I appreciate you getting behind me and supporting the book launch. I'm hoping for bestseller, fingers crossed. And the book is about not making millions, it's about helping millions. So that the book was never really designed or presented as a published item to make pots of money. It was about helping lots and lots of people, because the challenges I faced whilst going through my sister's death and then my father's death, and helping them with the practical side of things, just booking appointments, hospital appointments, getting the right pills and potions and lotions, being there, just holding hands and giving them that spiritual side, helping them say goodbye to their loved ones, maybe making peace with people that had maybe wronged them in their living life, and they wanted to have closure. So it was a really profound experience more than anything, and the fact that I use my mess to become my message, really, to help others, and that's pretty much where I am. So that's me.
Wow. I talk to myself on mute half the time, Scott.
That's okay.
Because otherwise I forgot what I want to say. So go on, Sam, please. Feel free, Sam.
Wow, it's very powerful, because like you said, we all have, when we experience that, because like you mentioned, at first when you're just your grandparents or someone that you really don't love, I said that wrong. Someone that you aren't the closest with, that it doesn't affect you to your core, right? Yeah. When it's your grandma, obviously you love your grandparent and it hurts you, but you're not as close with them as a sister or a brother or a wife or a husband or a best friend, where you're around them every single day. And, have that, especially for young people too, when, what's happening with the VAX, a lot more young people are passing. So, to have a resource to be able to not only go through grief, but to be able to not feel alone, I think is a very powerful tool. And especially in 2025, where a lot of people are hopeless, a lot of people feel like, there's this term called the black pill, which is basically where you just say that everything's, screwed, and, we're all, screw it. And we need more pieces of hope. We need more literature of hope. We need more people of hope. We need, especially around the world, not just in one place, but around the world. In Africa, like you mentioned, in Ghana, definitely in the States,
in Europe as well. So I think it's a book that can resonate worldwide. And you being a coach, I'd love to schedule a meeting with you and see if maybe we can feature you on our platform, feature your book on the platform, and I'd love to talk to you about that. Aside from this, but I definitely want to learn more about your coaching. So, when it comes to your coaching specifically, are you more on the health side? Are you more from a life side? Can you speak more about like what an average client would look like and just like what your coaching looks like?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Thank you. So coachings wise is officially a life coach. That's the title I use myself. I know people sometimes speak flippantly of that, but for me, it does sum me up because I have experienced life, separation, divorce, death, property losses, business losses, financial losses, standing on a bridge, contemplating the inevitable and deciding that, the world would be a better place without me. So I feel I've lived a life, and as I said, my mess becomes my message to your success. So in terms of my coaching style, it's very much about showing them the mirror, hence the Man in the Mirror was born. It is akin to now the Michael Jackson words, if anyone's familiar with the song, and the words of, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change. So if you want your life to change, then you be the change. You don't expect your wife to change, your partner, your husband, your loved ones, your job, your boss. You be the change, and then your changes occur. So it's the magnetic effect, the ripple effect, the kind of the energy effect. So I always start with a wheel of life. You're probably familiar with that, Samuel. But yeah, for me, the wheel of life is significant in terms of seeing where that person is right now. And the reason is that worked for me. So I went around the wheel of life. There was 8 segs from health, career, spirituality, contribution, love, relationships, and everything in between. And I was then scoring, I think it was July 2020. It was soon after my sister's death when I was introduced to the coach, and I was scoring 0s and 1s, given the fact I was on the bordering suicidal. And then I monitored that and I tracked that. And then 2 years later, it was 7s, 8s, and 9s throughout the whole spectrum. But my coach, and that's something I'm an advocate of, is I always start with health. So when I'm ever working with any client, we start with the wheel of life. We'll pick a seg. It could be relationships, love, wealth, finances, career. But I must always include health. As Tony Robbins famously says, if a person with health has a million dreams, a person with no health has but one, and that's to be healthy. And clearly Steve Jobs is an absolute kind of an advocate of that, the shining torch of, potentially one of the richest men in the world, and with all the money he couldn't save his life. And that's quite powerful, that when you think about someone like him, that with all that money and all that wealth and all that power and all the contacts, that sadly, yes, he wasn't able to be saved to go on to change the world even more. So yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a huge health knowledge bank, certainly not from your aspect, but where I deliver from is about that practical terms, because I tend to specialize in people that were like me. So my key audience is probably like 25 to 45 males, maybe in a sort of mid-range career of sort of 50K to 100K, circa, a couple of children. But that said, I do carry a feminine energy, and I am attracting female clients who may have a masculine energy, who I can help them with. And it's more about the practical sides of life, or how to empathize and show love with their partners, and about reconnection. So I do some couples counseling / coaching. I do mainly one-to-ones, and I do some one-to-manys.
I love it. Especially, I think I spoke about this either yesterday or the day before in a meeting where, we're seeing so much online of the good, right? And Annie even mentioned that everybody's motivated until they get told no a bunch of times. And, it's like today's September 6th, right? So people are like, yeah, I'm motivated. I'm gonna start it, and I'm still motivated through September 6th, and then September 21st comes, and there's no deals. You didn't make any money. That's when you start doubting yourself, and people aren't, especially online, they're not taught what to do in those moments. all they're seeing is, oh, well, I made this much money and I did this and did that, and it's like, okay, that's all good and fine, but most people are what I just mentioned, not, oh, I made da 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 da. Most people are struggling to get by, struggling to pay their bills, whatever it is. So to have someone that speaks from a perspective of, yeah, I had it all, but I was thinking about ending myself. You know, my sister passed, my dad died. Like a lot of times, those stories are actually more relatable. Even though, you know, my sister's alive, I have two parents, I can rationalize more with that story than I can rationalize somebody coming on here and talking about how they made $1 million.
Yeah.
And then, you know, relating to your work. So I wish I would have known you in June because, you know, we did a campaign for a provider that we did a documentary for that I mentioned earlier. But in doing that, it was for PTSD, and all the providers on the platform were female. We have one provider on the platform that's a chiropractor, but just about everybody, even the coaches, we do have a spiritual coach now, but he's in India and it's more of like a commission deal anyway. So we have only like 3, maybe 4 providers total that are men. And none of them are, like, a lot of them are busy. One's in Africa that really, you know, he still hasn't even scheduled his interview yet. Buddhislav hasn't scheduled his. So like none of them even work the system. So, you know, with that being said, it's like to have another man on the platform brings diversity where we can get that male audience, because a lot of our audience is female. A lot of the holistic medicine audience is female, you know, because most men are, I don't know how it is in the UK, but in the States, most men are too afraid to talk about their feelings. They don't want to go to therapy.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Exactly the same. Wow.
Yeah, exactly the same.
So, you know, to have someone like yourself on our platform, it can really do wonders. And even how you mentioned about putting health first, because a lot of providers might talk about health, but then what comes next, you know, and that's the biggest thing, is the what comes next that a lot of people struggle with at all parts of their life. You know, me, I just turned 29 yesterday, and I'm thinking, you know, what comes next? You know, do I, and as I hit 30, I'll think that. And then my little cousin who's just turned 19, he thinking, you know, what comes next? And then my dad who's 69, he's thinking what comes next. So it's like we all have that question, no matter what stage you're in. I know you mentioned 25 to like 60 is really your range. So my little cousin, he's kind of out. But, you know, when it comes to me or a lot of young people that are in my age group, in that, you know, going in the 30s age group, where, you know, I got lucky because, you know, my business partner introduced me to this business, and so I got lucky. I mean, granted, the business is still hard and everything, but at least I have a direction. A lot of men from 25 to 30, they don't have that direction. So they don't know what they want to do. They're just kind of aimlessly working. They're trying to scrounge to get by. Like, I got a buddy, and he's still looking for a side hustle because he you know, he doesn't have enough with his current job to be able to live and pay bills and everything. And he told me he was going to be gambling. And yeah, that can work, but there's a lot of, you know, issues with making your side hustle gambling, you know, that can arise. So,
Absolutely.
you know, there's so many men that I know, and so many men in general that need this, that don't know where to go, don't know where to turn, but a lot of them are afraid. And they're even more afraid when it comes to doing therapy or doing, you know, going to see like a provider when it comes to holistic health. I feel like with life coaching, they're more likely to do it because it can lead to their financial success. So they don't have to feel soft by talking about their feelings and stuff. So I think life coaching is something that can really help, and that we would love to have on our platform.
Fantastic, thank you. That's excellent. I mean, for me, I weave that in as well, Samuel. So I may position it as I run 2 programs at the moment. One is called Be the Change, and one is called Make the World a Better Place. So it's a bit more of an advance where people start talking about oneness or spirituality or being in flow. Because I've been through that entire journey myself, I now created that into a program or two. So the Be the Change is very much, I had to wake up every day and plan to brush my teeth. I had to wake up the next day and tell myself to go for a walk and eat some breakfast. I was at that point. I certainly wasn't the person that's sitting here before you today and just call himself a published author and a life coach. I was a very different person, but that was literally only 9 years ago. And for me, even the transformation within myself, so my mantra is transforming lives one reflection at a time. I just love the fact that I can weave that in. So it might be very much a practical based program of let's get your shit together, pardon my French, but it's very much a case of where do you want to be, where do you want to go, set the desire, set the intention. And then within that, through word collecting and listening, I'm able to then pick up on things like you mentioned something about your parents. Let's talk about that trauma. And I can do some NLP work, which is subliminal, but slightly woven in, as I say, into the training, that they think they're obviously just receiving a practical based training, but I can take them through a timeline therapy or an anchoring technique, which they're not directly aware of, unless I say, would you like to try something today? Let's set an anchor. Let's do a weighted technique where I can release this from you. And that's why I love what I do.
And to that point, we have custom pages on our platform, and I'm glad you mentioned NLP, because we'd love to have a custom page. Again, I guess you would tend to get 2 pages. Then you would get one for your life coaching, and another one for NLP, because we like to have custom pages on all types of holistic practitioners. So yeah, we would love to also learn about NLP, because essentially the way a custom page works, it's like if you go to themerlingroupworld.com, you'll see all the kinds of different custom pages, and we'll customize the page for the provider. So the provider will get like, a graphic that goes to their website, or they'll get like, a series of videos that drive traffic to their website or drive traffic to their socials. And then as far as NLP, it would be a little write-up on what NLP is, some graphics on what NLP are, as well as videos on what NLP are. And then what we do is we provide interviews similarly to this, but they're interviews that are on the platform as well as YouTube, where people can learn more about you. Because what I've also found, and what this does a great job of as well, is that it personalizes you. For example, yesterday there was a man that we did an interview with, or not an interview, but a call here with a guy named Dr. Phil. And Dr. Phil is a functional nutritionist, and people got to speak to him. They got to ask him questions. They got to learn about him. And because of that, it personalizes him, and people see him now as more of an expert. Yeah, all doctors are experts technically because of their degree, but from a consumer perspective, you don't know who that person is. So when we do these interviews, we get to spotlight what you do and how you can help people. And that does a great job. And then we click, we cut it up into different clips as well. But yeah, I definitely love what you're doing. And do you have any anecdotal, as far as NLP that you can share with the audience?
As in changes that have occurred?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, probably quite a few. I think the biggest transformations have been, well, some of my testimonials, ironically, will speak for themselves, but there's a particular person who's actually due to speak next week, a chap called Justin, who's now become a very dear friend of mine, and he's now gone on to become a coach, and we're sharing the space together, because I'm a big believer in collaboration and abundance, that we can share the world, share the space. There is more than enough to go around. So Justin very much came to me initially as a kind of lost, was the best word he would describe, in terms of where his business is going, his life, his relationship, his financial situation. And all I did was, for a session, sit with him, listen, word collect, presented it back to him. And I said, you can actually retire now, my friend. You're in a position where you can sell your house, go and buy that house on the beach in the country that you want to, live your life of abundance, be the life coach that you want to be. And he just was kind of just that mind-blowing moment of everything I've got is right in front of me. I just didn't realize it. And since then, he's gone on now to grow his followers, his subscribers. His business is absolutely thriving, and he's moving into the space with him and I. We're creating a collaborative piece together where we're going to start running some retreats. His father, unfortunately, and very sadly, committed suicide, which was his kind of reasoning, rationale, because he believed he could have done more. He wanted his father to have spoken to him, which there's a piece that appears in my book about that, in terms of what's meant to be is meant to be. We all have a date time stamp, but none of us know really truly when. And even if you try to control that, the universe will decide where and when. So Justin's probably one of the biggest recognizable transformations of all, because he was just coming through that period of his father having taken his own life and committed suicide, to being absolutely lost, to now being this absolute ball of energy who thrives and now helps others. And he went from, I think, 0 to over 1,000 followers in less than a week, just because he started sharing his story. And I think you're right, Samuel, 100%. It's about that authenticity and that personability. I can present certificates and various things all day long, but until you get to meet that person, it's the old adage of people buy from people.
Yeah, it's very true.
And he's talking to himself again, as he always does. Like, look, Sam, amazing questions, and I say I love conversations. And Scott, obviously, you've been through a lot. I think one of the biggest things is when we use our pain to help other people. I think all of us have that story. I can't say all of us, most of us do. So let me welcome some more of my friends in the audience. So welcome, America's Supermom. I do see, of course I see you. The show reminds us that today is National Reading Day. I never knew that. But there's something every day in the show. The show's amazing. She's got 5 books herself. She's America's Supermom. She's got 15 kids.
Alishot, really? Whoa.
Yeah, and she's raised all of them. She's raised all of them. They're well-to-do kids, all of them. Just remarkable.
Amazing.
She was saying, of course, she's doing amazing projects. She always has done as well. She's got a TV channel, she's a TV producer. So she's one of them amazing humans who has the energy of the world. But she has, like all of us, she has her, she has the stories to tell. So she's been there, she's seen it. So the things that you're talking about, she's seen all of that as well. It's remarkable when you can bounce back and then use that. What's your experience to help others. I can't say that enough, right? So Michelle, welcome. Thank you for your post. I actually engaged with you after the show. Sean is again, these are my friends, Scott. These friends I spend all day with, literally every day. Now, Sean, I don't want Sean to beat me up today, because Sean always beats me up because I always get it wrong. He's an inner potential activator.
Oh.
Yeah. No, basically, no, he helps you find who you are really within, because that's where the answer is, as you said, Scott.
So it's like an icky guy. Love, the purpose of why.
Yeah, it's one of the best. Like I call him mindset coach, and he starts shouting at me. I'm not a mindset coach. I'm just from inner potential activator and also an identity disruptor. That's what he calls himself.
Love that.
Now, that's again, it's a good one to mention, because you mentioned us not realizing that everything we want is here already. It's in front of us. Now, Sean took himself off to Guatemala, where he now lives, from the US years ago. And I guess you only do that when you find inner peace. And then maybe an inner peace also equates to real peace. So he's living the life of Riley out there. So he's loving it. And of course, he's doing what he does, right? What I want to mention. Mike, I see you as well, Mike. Welcome, my friend. Glad you're here. So, a proper IT genius, our friend Mike LeBlanc. I'm glad you're here. Oh no, I shouldn't have mentioned him. I know Mike is here, right? Which one do I want to show? Let me show this one. Yes, wave. Welcome, Mike. So Mike just experienced a bereavement, which I thought was going to keep you away longer, Mike. So I'm glad you're here. I will say also, Sam, happy birthday before I forget, because I do forget stuff. to get older, right? So happy birthday for you now. It's for yesterday.
Gracias.
Yesterday, yes. Happy birthday, son.
Happy birthday, my friend. Curtis, the genius man, he talks about men's issues. More like men's trauma, men's emotional distress. You definitely want to meet him.
We need more of that, Curtis.
Yeah, no, but he's a serious man, and trying to work out the root cause of some of our traumas. He's a brave man, because when you start doing that sort of work, you do end up talking about big topics, right? Topics that truly, they in people's souls. That's what I would say for sure. Right? The show, every word I say about you is true, my friend. Look, Zondra TV is the next step from what we do. It's what I do, what Sam does. It is a TV channel. Right. And you can appear on the show's TV channel if you say, but we'll talk about this afterwards, Scott, for sure. And so TV is my thing. That's why I started this business. I want to make it famous on TV. I want to put someone on ITV in an ad. That's why I dream of it. So that's why I do what I do. That's real fame. When the show has a TV channel that can get you a long way there. They have millions of viewers and so on and so forth, for sure. Kenny, I see you as well. Welcome, Kenny. Savor the flavor, says Kenny. That's always Kenny, right? Kenny's he's Mr. Cheesecake. And yes, I do bake Kenny's cheesecake recipes. I really do. But Kenny, you hear and do Kenny before we leave, I'm sure, right? Look, let's come back to our topic, my friends. The one thing we can guarantee, all of us, is that we're going to die. All of us. I need a financial advisor. He had the best line, I think. His line at BNI, his line was simply, talk to me before you go. And I'm like, what did I think of that? Damn. Anyway, Aurelio, thank you so much, my friend. I see what you're saying. So I know that's your quote. It's a wonderful book. Man in the Mirror was a powerful book to help millions of people all over the world. So I know Aurelio has a mission to help millions all over the world as well. So it starts somewhere, right? It starts somewhere, Scott.
Yeah, journey of 1,000 miles starts with a step.
Exactly. It starts here. But it starts with your book, really. I'm glad that I'm glad that you're doing public speaking as well. Yes. Now that's the show. You're the great. I'm the humble one, but I'll take your compliments. I'll take it. It's fine. Thank you, Lachelle. That's what I should say, right? That's the right thing to say. To help men and women rise is big hairy. Is to reduce male suicide by at least 1%. So now people get what you're saying, Scott. Yeah. I think we get it, and we all feel that the issue is there, right? The issue is staring us in the face, and only by talking about it, only by reading about it, learning about it, maybe learning about ourselves, really. Like you say, the answer is a man in the mirror. Let that sink in for a second. No, really, that is the answer. That's the answer I found. I say eventually, when you were talking earlier, Scott, I remember the days when I was an angry man. I'm talking a couple of years, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Literally, I was, Then see, now today, I'll tell you the biggest lesson that I've probably learned in the last few years. It is control your emotions. Don't run with it. Never do, right? No. But I think the temptation is always there for us, Scott. Things happen, you're like, and you're like, no. I'm like, no, calm yourself. So the other day, I'm human like everyone else, of course. And I said the other day, I'm practicing what I'm going to say on stage, and I've got a mantra. So I'm like, darling wife, we're together forever, 35 years worth of foreverness. I repeat my mantra. She's like, oh, I'm not doing it. There's just something around the house. For a second, I saw red. I thought, then I just thought, it's not even that important. It's fine. And I walked away, sat down, and I was like, yeah, that's life. That's a wife I have. She don't know. She is amazing. I know. So don't think she's an evil witch. Some could say that way. But I'm saying, but handling my emotion in that moment, that's what life really is.
We call
That's
that E,
where-
E plus R equals O, Annie. So
What's that then?
E
Yeah.
plus R equals O. So E is the event, the thing happens. So in which case your wife bothers you, a car cuts up in front of you. So the E is the event, the R is the response, and that equals the outcome. So many people in life react, they don't respond. And that response is less than a millisecond to take a breath, take a moment, pause, sometimes count to 5, sometimes coach my clients to do this. You want to respond, but actually you often react, and that's based upon emotional intelligence, because what we say is high emotion equals low intelligence. So if you're angry, upset, pissed off, frustrated, you will react in an out of character way, very likely, because your emotional intelligence is high, and therefore your intelligence is actually low. Where when we are emotionally carried and emotionally balanced, we will make very strong rational decisions, often born out of responding. So yeah, E plus R equals O. It's a very
I'll take it, my friend. I'll take. I've learned something new today. I'll take it for sure. Right? I'll take it. You know, that's just saying. It's but we're always tested. You know, Sean, I see what you're saying. You came back from the pits and the edge of suicide, and if you're not looking at many people, well, Scott's another one clearly, and there's many others here, I'm sure, who've been through, the pits literally, right?
Yeah.
But it takes doing. So I've had coaches pretty much since I was. So I've been in business. I've had mindset coach. I've had life. I have a couple of life coaches, and then business coaches. Several of those too. I think it's good to have someone out there to learn from.
Yes.
But I think they all teach you the same thing. It's about the man in the mirror.
I believe so. That's my take.
It's a mindset game, but we know that. My friends who are here, in case you missed the beginning of the show, my friend, my mission is to launch Scott's book on the 17th. And the book called "Before We Die, Our Final Chapter." You can guess what the book's about, I'm sure. It is about preparing for the inevitable. Well, I don't know. Why am I telling you? I'll let you tell them again what the book is, Scott.
Yeah. Would you like me to read what we'll call the blurb? Would that be okay?
Yeah, you go for it. Go for it. I love authors who read stuff, who read the part from their book, right? You go for it, my friend.
Thank you. So it says, before we die, our final chapter is an extraordinary and compassionate guide for anyone confronting the profound reality of death, whether their own or that of someone they love. In a world where death is often ignored or feared, this book offers a powerful invitation to face it head-on with clarity, grace, and meaning. It reveals how we can prepare ourselves emotionally, spiritually, and practically for life's final chapter, ensuring that we don't just exist, but we live fully until the very end. More than just a reflection on mortality, Before We Die, Our Final Chapter is a roadmap for creating moments of connection, offering acts of kindness, and leaving behind a legacy of love and supporting for those who remain. It's a transformative read for anyone seeking to find deeper meaning in the face of loss, and to ensure that when the time comes, we leave the world a little more whole than when we found it.
That's brilliant, right? It's when I realized that it's a living part that counts the most. Stop being so miserable and cheer up.
Yeah.
It's
hard, it's hard. And I think for me, the most profound moment was probably my sister's death brought about my life. So when people talk to me and say, how can you be grateful for your sister's death? Because I had no choice. I am not God. The inevitable was there. She was dying. She was told it would be a matter of months. So at the time, it was very hard. But often when people die, other people die with them, i.e. inside. So if you lose a wife or certainly a family member or a child, I have a family member who her son died nearly 30 years ago, and she still mourns his death every day. She's never changed his bedroom. She's never, there's a shrine to his death. She hasn't gone through what we call the Dabdar process, the 5 stages of grieving. So she's never entered that journey, and I've tried my hardest, but she almost wants to stay in that place because she feels that to live her life and laugh and love and, you know, enjoy and embrace what we call living, she feels that that's disrespectful to his memory. And I'm saying, well, actually, it's the opposite. You should live a life even harder. And certainly when my sister died, initially, it was that degree of, I want to swap places. I wish I was dead. But when I reframed that and when I shifted my own personal state and spent some time working on me, what I realized was what my sister's death brought about my rebirth. So it was about living again and living hard and doing the best and enjoying it and taking it really with everything I've got. And she just, the old saying, you know, if life gives you lemons, we make lemonade. And the analogy to that is you squeeze the lemons to get the lemonade, really. You've got to squeeze every last inch out of everything to absolutely enjoy it. So for me, my gratitude that's born within me is somewhat profound because it makes, her death more powerful, really, because it was never in vain. Where if I'd have just continued to give up and took medication and stayed on pills, and then my father died 2 years later, and I continued to wallow and obviously go down, I may not even be here had I have allowed that to overwhelm me. So you're absolutely right in the mindset piece, but it's the mindset with action. So the mindset, it's just small steps.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. You know, so thinking, you know, without action, without a plan is wishing, right? You actually have to do. You have to do something. You know, we have to take action for change to happen. Again, I say, well done, you, my friend. Let's talk to Michael. There's a couple of great comments. I'll come to your comments, Aurelia and Lachelle. Well, let me do Lachelle's first. No, Scott, you are an author already. I published the ebook. That makes you listen. As soon as that goes live, it's in review right now. But I imagine by the end of today, maybe tomorrow, it will be published. Okay. So you're an author, not author to be anymore. You can't hide behind that anymore, right?
I've changed my bio.
You know, it is taking your book to that. You're saying that it's taking your story to help millions. That's why go small? Why trying to help 2 or 3? Help millions. And then make it more, right? That's the way. That's what I'm going to share in Ghana. So that's an insight to my message. Dare to dream, dare to do, but you must do. Otherwise, your dream is not going to get anywhere, right?
Right. Yeah. It just remains a dream and a wish unless you take action.
Yeah. So the show, now you're a font of knowledge, of course you are. So this month is Suicide Prevention Month, so it ties in with our book launch. Excellent. You know, look, my friends, please do. You know, we're having an event next week, Thursday, I believe. Scott, I think so.
Friday, is it Friday the 12th? I think.
Yes, yeah. Okay, Friday the 12th. My diary. You know,
Friday the 12th at 4 p.m. ish.
Excellent. Okay. So thanks for reminding me because my diary does what it does until I look at it. Better go on with it, right?
I think we're talking about the emotional journey, on Friday. So today is about the practical journey of preparing for death. Are we prepared to die? It's a very emotive question. But next week, we're looking at the spiritual side, the emotional side, the healing side, and using the energy of death, as we said, to live life, really, where today was more about the practical tasks and many people not being prepared. Obviously, I don't know the world figures, but certainly in the UK, I don't know if anyone wished to hazard a guess. It's a quiz, but we can have some fun with it. What percentage of the UK adults would you believe don't have a will? So you can.
I'm British. Now you put in the comments if you want, my friends. What percentage of people do you believe? You know, maybe in the US as well. What percentage of people don't have a will? You know, in the UK, I said 90% sure, probably more. What's the real number?
So the adult population in the UK, it's 56 to 60% does not have a will. So it's stronger the number than I thought. And of them, the vast majority, 75% of them represent the 30 to 45-year-old bracket. So it's the younger generation of the adult population. And it's often that they feel they're too young to have a will, i.e. we'll live forever, because we're all invincible when we're 18. They're too poor, ironically, i.e. they think they don't have enough to give away if they were to die and it's a small amount, whether they have cash at bank, assets, cars, property. They just think it's not enough to justify spending hundreds or thousands on a will. They procrastinate, i.e. tomorrow will never come. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Or they don't know how or what to do. That's it in a nutshell. So what steps to take, what action to take, and obviously the book will hopefully guide them through that and show them the practical steps to do it. So yeah, that's interesting data and stats for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, so that's number one tip for you today. One, I'm sure Sean's giving many tips today. No, but have a will, my friends. You need a will. So otherwise, your assets, everything you've worked for, goes intestate.
Correct.
Yeah, it goes to the state, the government. Yep. So without a will, no one has any say in what happens to. Saying the work you've done, the words you built. I'm sure you have a plan or a dream to give it to give stuff to people, right? Even if it's to organizations, your passions, the people you support.
Yeah.
But without a will, you just got it goes in puff of air. It's gone.
Yeah.
Which is rather crazy. I want to get to the end of Lachelle's point. That's why let's do that experience. We have to be brave enough to talk about the hard topics. Many people suffer in silence because they don't know how to express how they feel. Indeed, Lachelle. I'm sure you agree, Scott.
100%. 100%. I think it's the main thing that people don't do, and they often say, "Man up." I don't know if that's an expression in America or around the world, but it's a common thing in the UK where often people just say "man up," and what I say is "speak up." Do speak up. So man up is about going inward, blocking it off. How are you doing today? I'm okay. And we just go out, we earn the dollar, whether that's the breadwinner or we just look after the children. And it's not a male dominant side. It's just women particularly are very good at talking about their emotions. They're generally good at forming connections with like-minded females. They're good at just talking about everything and anything, including their emotions, their feelings, their thoughts, where men particularly, there isn't either an environment for that, and the things like going down the pub, it's more about talking football and laughing and jollying, where often people inside are dying internally, and that's what leads to suicide. And again, having personally experienced that, I genuinely believe the world would be a better place without me. And I've thought for a moment that me not being here would make it better for so many people. And I'm so glad that I never took that decision to take action in that occasion. But I deal with clients who have, and if only they'd talk to somebody, I'm sure that 5-minute, 10-minute conversation could have prevented that, or certainly guided them and helped them onto a pathway to live a better life and still be with us today. So it's powerful.
For sure. Lachelle said 80% is, I guess, people who don't have the will. That would be a shocking number, right? I think this is your take, and of course you break down how to make a will in the book. Sure, it's good to talk to, who can help us, and I guess some of the options that we have.
Yes.
Of course, there is a need to look within your locality, for who those people are, right? But I think we need to. Our will. You mentioned 2 types of will, Scott, in the book: the living will and the will. Yay! What's the difference, Michael? I'll come to you next, my friend. And I know you were muted. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's a living will and what's the will? What's the difference?
Yeah, sure. So a will is ultimately after your death. So these are your wishes. So after a person has passed or we've died, that the will is then executed. So the will is opened up, often in the presence of a solicitor, a lawyer, somebody in good standing who has executed the will. You will have an executor to the will and beneficiaries. So the will is after a person has died and their wishes are then fulfilled or upheld. It could be anything from disposing assets to paying off money to charity, giving chattels to friends and family. A living will is if you are, say, incapacitated towards the end of our life, even down to having a stroke, which can affect anyone at any age, and you have that short-term incapacitation, you could have a living will, which also respects your wishes. So it's things like DNR, do not resuscitate. The person may not want certain things because of their religion. We're talking like blood or plasma. There's certain people that can't or won't take blood in the event of a fatality or a car accident, things like organ donation. So the living will you can represent now, and it can be, I think we talk about the UK's ADRT, so it's about your treatment whilst you are still alive, whether that be in hospital, a hospice, a care home, nursing environment, or even at home, to die with dignity. So the living will versus the will is one is whilst alive and one is after the death.
Yeah. So, again, you break it down very well in the book. So it's a good way to understand and then to put the right plans in place. Mr. Calm, how are you doing?
Not bad, Annie. How about yourself? How you doing?
Better for having you here, my friend. Better for having you here. I know you're gonna buy Scott's book when I will. Hopefully, we will. All right.
If Scott can answer some of my questions, then I'll buy it.
Scott will certainly answer some of your questions. Fire away. Fire away.
All right, Scott. I'm interested in how you live. Where are you from?
No, Michael's lived in the UK, by the way, so he does know the UK a bit.
Oh, okay. I live in the northeast of England, Stockton-on-Tees, if you're familiar with that.
Of England, Scotland-on-Tees? I've never heard of it.
Okay.
It's past Manchester.
Near Middlesbrough? We'll do football.
Yes, Middlesbrough. Okay.
Yes, Middlesbrough, yeah.
Right.
5 minutes from Middlesbrough.
That's nice. That's really nice. So, do you like soccer?
Not personally, no. My family and friends follow it, but I'm not a big advocate, no.
No. Cricket?
No, I'm not really into sports. I don't know why. It never really sort of excited me. I used to like following snooker. I play golf. I play badminton. Kind of bizarre sports.
Yeah, those are real sports. That's for sure. Yeah, badminton, golf. I don't know about golf so much, but a lot of people have said things about it. I might change my mind about that one. Who knows?
Yeah, some say it's a good walk spoiled, but I love golf. It's the peace and the tranquility, and it's nice and calm. Frustrating as hell sometimes, but if you the mindset side, it's lovely golf. I enjoy it.
What about squash?
Hard work.
Okay, all right. That's interesting. I like what you're saying there. My apologies about your sister.
Thank you.
May she rest in peace. And I'm really I really appreciate you coming out and saying it. It sounds like you had a real good personal relationship with your sister, and you talked a lot. And yeah, she probably talked your ear off. That's why you know quite a bit about her.
Yes.
You guys were kind of like best buddies, best friends. Really got into each other, and and that's what drove you into that spiral. Well, that was it, right? It just hit you, and that just really did a number.
For me, Calm, what it actually was when I was in my low point. So 2016 was when I had my mental breakdown. And I lost my job, I lost my company car, my income, my property portfolio, my wife left me. We separated for almost 7 years, and I lost everything, including me, my self-worth, my dignity, my respect, everything. And the one person that helped me through that was my sister. So she was there through the difficult times. She'd come and sit with me. We'd talk. She's very black and white, my sister, very matter of fact. And I just love the fact that she was there as my support whilst I was going through a challenging time. So when she became unwell, I could do nothing but return the favor. So even the practical side, which we talk about today, I was sending emails for her, dealing with her pension. She, unfortunately, at the time had a 17-year-old son. So we didn't know how we could inherit the house. So it was the legalities behind it. So whilst my sister was still alive, we set up a trust. We put the property in my name for him when he was 21. So there was lots of practical things. But when somebody turns around and says you've got 6 months left to live, we realised how fast 6 months goes. And I just went into doing mode, and all I could do was return that favor for my sister, because she's the one that reached down to me and said, "Take my hand, I will help you up, Scott." So I was always indebted to her and forever grateful for the fact she was there for me. So I felt I was returning the favor, albeit a small amount, because I couldn't save her life, but I could help her on that journey of her final chapter.
All right. Tell me about the how you feel about change. Let me tell you how I feel first. Um, Change is something that is undisputable. It's a constant, something that is a universal truth. It comes to you. It's something that happens for everybody, even from the very beginning. When you get into this world, even before you're born, when you're actually conceived, there's always change. There's always something happening over and over, and it's always there. Um, when you come when they say that you're birthed into this world. I think you come into this world when you're conceived, and you exit this world when you die. That is the biggest change, but it is definitely a universal truth, and it is something that you need to take real. You need to consider quite a bit about how it functions in your life and what it does for you, and what it does for others as well. And you will know that once just the interplay between what it does for others, what it does for you, etc., etc. You get to understand it a little bit better. And from what I can tell, from what I seem to understand from you, is that you've come around taking change as a mantra, or using change as a mantra, and understanding it a little bit better than most people have. So I want to get an idea of how do you feel about the word change?
Okay, excellent question. For me, as I said, my mantra is be the change. That's what it says on my website. It says that in my book. It's literally be the change, exclamation mark. So but there's many facets to change, because I believe also we change probably every 7 to 10 years. We have trimesters in life, sort of the first third, the mid third, and the last third.
Right.
Whether you believe or not, but that's true in terms of physiologically, emotionally. When you're a young child, it's all about the education stage, the learning stage, the knowledge stage. Middle of life is obviously about that sort of growth and having children and giving back contribution. And then obviously the formative stage of life, in terms of getting older, it is then obviously about making plans and enjoying retirement, as many people often refer to. But I think we often change around every 7 years progressively, call it shedding our skin. So we kind of shed our skin every 7 to 10 years as humans. That's often why people either get divorced or get married or go kind of crazy and get tattoos. And it's very sort of outward things that people feel or sense a change. I think people put milestones on it, like 50th birthdays, 40th birthdays, and set that pivotal point of things are going to change. So I think my view on it is there's probably facets to change, because some is evolutionary, that it happens progressively and organically and naturally, and we may not be aware of it, but it happens. And then there's change where you can make a change and be the change. And this is obviously trying to parallel the two together. For me, it's about awareness. That's the biggest thing I teach my clients. If you have an awareness of you, your life, your body, your health, your wealth, your mindset, the biggest thing is awareness. If you're aware, like Annie said about, 2 years ago, he was an angry person, maybe didn't know why, but having that awareness is great. Then having the ability to change it is fantastic. So I know I can change my state within seconds. And often people say that the true meaning to life is happiness. I would probably challenge that to a degree, because we could be happy right now. I could make every single person here happy, even despite if you've recently gone through a bereavement, going through a bereavement, because you take yourself mentally to a happy place and you can feel happy. But what I believe, it's about peace and joy. When we feel at peace and when we feel that oneness, that joy, that's something that life is all about. And that's really what the book touches on. If you can get to the the last period of your life, your final breath, your final hours, and you could say, I lived a life of joy and I feel at peace.
Mm.
That's for
I'd
me
like,
is powerful. Sorry, go on.
no, I appreciate, I really appreciate what you just said. And I'd like to add that when you say true meaning to happiness, I'd say that true meaning to happiness is change and actually being aware of it. I mean, and that's when you embrace it and you actually, like you said before, you get to own it, you get to understand it, and you get to, I guess you assume you kind of control it. And but the most important thing is that you're aware of it.
Yes.
And you're not. You're that's the most important part. And I certainly appreciate you bringing that to light. I like your mantra. It's excellent, and I'm glad that I'm hoping that I've certainly learned from you quite a bit, and
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
I
that.
certainly appreciate what I'll appreciate buying your book
Thank you.
at this juncture. And when you write again, the next one that's coming, I'll buy that one too.
Excellent. You always make my day, Michael. This is why I love Michael. Look, Michael, I love you, but I need to talk to my LinkedIn twin, my twin, who's literally the other version of Annie, but the female version. That's Miss Angelica. How you doing, Miss Angelica?
I am well. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Great to see you. How are you doing on a Saturday?
Getting ready for next week. But
your shows.
I'm getting back. Yeah, I'm getting ready for that as well. Getting those organized. And yeah, this subject that you're talking about is pretty deep, because I think death, like you said, it comes on, it happens fast, right? You say that those 6 months really go by fast, and I think it is good to prepare. When before my mom died, we didn't really have a plan, and everything was so sudden. So I think it's important to have a plan, so that you know, for example, what they want said at their funeral. Things like that are important, because you don't think about that, and things that you want to talk about that maybe they didn't share with you, and you'd want to know more information, but they're gone, right?
Yes.
So I think this is a good thing that you have a book, so that people are prepared for when that time comes to answer those questions. And it'll it's a very stressful time, but at least you have some answers as to what to do, and what the other person wanted or wants, right? So that's a good conversation to have. Questions that write down questions that you want to ask them, that maybe you didn't think of, and how they felt about things. Because sometimes when people realize that their time is coming up, that things come out that you might have not known of. So yeah, thank you for having me, and appreciate you, and thanks for inviting me, Michael.
Yes, nice. Thank you. I invited you, but you didn't. You didn't read my WhatsApp on time. It's like Michael gets the credit. I didn't send you. I didn't send you an invite, Miss Angelica. I tell you, no, I
Oh,
get it.
did you?
I get
I'm
it.
sorry.
Michael's the important one. It's fine.
I
It's
didn't
fine.
mean to make an invite fight.
It's all right. You're here. That's important. That's important to me, my friend. I'm glad you're
I
here.
could make it today. I could
No,
make
so,
it
you
today.
make a great point as well. Sure, Scott, do you want to respond?
Yes, please. Thank you, Angelica.
Please,
That was
please.
yeah, that was fantastic. And you're absolutely right. That's why the book is almost a guide. So towards the end, I've created appendices. So obviously, when my sister was dying, that time, as it was touched on earlier, somebody that close to you, I think when it's grandparents, It's what we'll call the life norm, that, you know, life's desire, life's plan, that typically our grandparents will die, then our parents will die, then we'll become the parent, we will die, and our children, and so on and so on. The circle of life, as it were. It's almost a norm or an expectation. But when my sister was dying, and obviously I still had my mum and dad here, and then my other sister, it was just that kind of rabbit in the headlight moment of, what do we do? How does this work? This doesn't feel normal. You know, it was just suddenly, it felt almost like a joke, or a more like a candid camera type. At any moment, somebody would jump out and say, haha, it's a joke. And it really felt for times where this can't be real. This is my sister. She will get better. You know, she can't possibly be dying. She looks well. And obviously in the early stages of her cancer, she did look well pre-treatment. So I think in terms of that journey, that 6-month thing, I was learning as I was going along. I was asking millions of questions, making phone calls, sending emails. I'm blessed that we had a family around my sister. So we kind of split the responsibilities. So one sister was looking after, obviously, kind of like appointments. My mum and dad were there just by her side. She had a boyfriend at the time, my sister, who was very much the emotional side and giving her love and connection. And I was just dealing with very practical matters of emails, pensions, wills, trusts. And it was a huge undertaking. And then every day I was visiting at the hospital, it was very much like me being a PA. So I was presenting to my sister my findings for the day and things I'd done and activities and where money was, and speaking to pension companies. I then got a power of attorney, because whilst my sister was still alive, people wouldn't speak to me. So again, the power of attorney, lasting power of attorney versus enduring power of attorney, there's a significant difference. So all those things I learned, I've now put that into the book. And then when my father was dying, albeit a year, he only lasted about 10 weeks. For within that year, I left my job to spend some time with him. We bought a motorhome. We planned to travel. And I felt more controlled, if you like, because life is about experience and knowledge. And when you have that, that brings confidence. And through those things, I felt more confident with it being my father, because he was in his 80s. And again, the cycle of life. But he only lasted 10 weeks. So again, it came very, very quickly. So even with that, there was new learns. It was things like care homes and respite care, bringing oxygen into the apartment to help him, you know, in his final days. But then his was very spiritual, because my father was what we'll class as old school. His mindset was, you die, you go in the ground, or you're burned, that's it. And then I was kind of like, wow, okay. And that was my upbringing. So that's what I believed until only about 5 or 6 years ago, after I went on my own journey of self and started learning and being curious about the world and energy and vibration. So the ability to then gift that to my father and say, you know, have you thought about energy and spirituality and the universe, and that when we die, you know, there's a small piece of us that we'll call our soul, that I believe goes on to do something else, because energy cannot be created nor destroyed, merely transferred from one form to another. So yeah, it's a fantastic point that you make. And I just feel that, yeah, the biggest gift for me was this book. The appendices particularly ask those inviting questions, but in an empathetic and sympathetic way. It's very much broken down into, for the person dying, about literally writing down personal details, bank account numbers, national insurance numbers for the UK, and social security details for the American side. So it's having all that data and all that knowledge at your fingertips, because I had to collate all that from my sister's perspective. And then even just checking her Facebook account, or, you know, her LinkedIn or Instagram, going on TikTok, reading messages to her, which was very personal. And that's something that I had to overcome, because I was then, to some point at one, you know, towards the end of my sister's life, I was her soul, really. I was her little conscience, you know, speaking for her, deciding for her. But we'd had all those difficult conversations months prior. And certainly in the last 5 or 6 weeks of her life, when she went into a hospice, what we could then do is forget about all that, because it had been dealt with, and purely focus on giving her love, connection, holding her hand, soothing, you know, feelings, music, memories, having laughs, celebrating birthdays. So I'm blessed and pleased that I had that opportunity. And that's really why I want to share that with so many people, because I don't want them to go through what I had to go through emotionally. And because of then my mindset training, I was then believed I was stronger help me through that. So that created resilience and persistence. But yeah, certainly a powerful journey.
Look, for me, I guess, I will put all that as being your real self and knowing the real person who is in front of you. Look, I do book layouts, right? And I tell you, Scott, secret for everyone who's here, who's listening, right? When I do a book, I get towards the end, and I'm like, I'm going to finish this book. It's nearly done. So Scott's book, I'm working my way through it. We've gone past most things. At the end, it's like, talk about what they like. What do they like? What do they do? What's their favorite thing? What's their bucket list? I'm like, why are you going there now? That's what you're talking about, Miss Angelica. Actually knowing the person in front of you.
Yeah.
So Scott's book covers it beautifully. So literally, my thinking before was that it's too late, but it's not too late. You have to ask those questions. You have to get to know, the person, whoever the person is, who are they really? What do they like? What don't they like? What do they believe? I mean, Scott even asked, what's the most important thing to them? And even the dislikes. I'm saying I thought it was unusual until I got there, and I realized that's probably the most important thing that you actually need to know. About being your true self and knowing the true person in front of you. So many of us never get to know, as you said, Miss Angelica, who that person really is. So Scott's book, gives us space to make the notes, to write down what the answers are when you ask the questions. Say that I think that's remarkable. Thank you for your great question, Miss Angelica. If you want to carry on talking, you can do for a second or for a couple of minutes. I think Scott, what else do you want to share with us today in terms of practicalities? And then we'll have to go through the comments, so that'll take a few minutes of our time as well. And our time is long gone. An hour and a half flow past.
Yeah, I think the main thing is ultimately the practicality side is, Angelica touched on it briefly there, was about getting the will, having those difficult conversations whilst we're alive, whilst we are corpus mentis, as we refer to, because often what happens is somebody is either a diagnosis. We kind of got the two elements of death. One is just it's rapid. You go out to work, you go out with friends, and you never return home. For me, they are some of the more severe sides of dying and death, because there's no planning, there's no opportunity. You don't get a chance to say goodbye, tell them you love them. But the book reflects upon that, of that stark reminder of say it every day. Remind that person you love them. Look inward as a person, as a soul, as a spirit. But then the other aspect of it is obviously the knowing that somebody's dying and they're terminally ill, and you're able to help them on that journey. But at the same time, as I've said earlier, you're able to get your own personal sort of affairs in order. So whilst you're helping that person, what I realized for my sister was I haven't done that for myself. So I did have a will, but it wasn't clean at the time. It wasn't prepared. I had, various investments. I had property, stocks and shares and bank accounts. And it was kind of like, if I died tomorrow, no one else would know my mess. They wouldn't know where to begin. I wouldn't, I didn't have a safe. There wasn't nothing planned. There was nothing electronic. There was no password. So it was just that logical side of me kicked in and thought, whilst I'm doing this for my sister, I should do this for myself. So I've now prepared a file in a folder. It's in a safe, in a lockbox, and my family and loved ones know where the key is to this safe. And in that this is literally my life. So this is how to access my, property. This is what the information is about the tenants. These are the landlord details that, if you need to sell the properties, this is what you need to do. These are my bank account information. This is where I have some investments, and these are the logins, the passwords, and so on. And you realize until you start actually unpicking your own life, we don't understand the complexities of that. And as I say, certainly from my sister's side, when she didn't have the trust and she was due to die, had she have died, basically she had a son who was 17, and we were very close to the death at the end. We had no timeline, but she just said, get me to his 18th birthday. So whether that was medicine, morphine, she basically said to the hospice, I want to live to see my son's 18th birthday. So we were planning on bringing the birthday forward. We weren't lying to her, but she was starting to lose capacity. And we thought, if she dies, that would be one of her regrets and one of his. So we were like, do we bring a false birthday? And that felt awful, because then, we're kind of lying to her to a degree, but it would have given her peace. So as it was, she made it to his real birthday. We had a cake and a party. But prior to that, if he would have been 17, then he couldn't have stayed in the home, and he would have had to go and move in with his father, and then the house would have had to have been sold. So there was things like that I then had to put safety mechanisms in and sort of things to help him, that he wanted to live in the house after her death, but he was only 17. So I then had to set up trusts and wills within a very short space of time. So that was a huge learn to me, really, Annie, in terms of the practical side of what we call life. And even if just today, anyone here or watching this, if you just sit for a moment and think about everything around you, from even starting with your car, your properties, your house, your money, things at bank, any investments, your job, if you own your own business, shareholders, what percentage do you own? Where's the cash, liquid assets? And you just kind of think, wow, all the stuff that we accumulate over the years, what would you want to happen to that? And then obviously when we get deeper into it, of bucket lists and spirituality and our final wishes, favorite songs, would you like a reading? Who would it be? Do you want to be cremated, buried? Would you like a particular service? Ashes scattering? There's thousands upon thousands of questions that could and should be asked. And often what happens is, from the comment that was made from Angelica, time forces those questions to be asked, because I no longer have time left. It's one thing I don't have. So we now have to have those difficult conversations at a really emotional time of the end of your life. So if we can ask those questions earlier, it just makes, for me, the period of the last few days of life just that little bit more comforting, and you can focus then on the person themselves and the human that they are, and the emotional side, rather than practical stuff. So it's about planning and preparation and being prepared. Are you prepared to die?
I like that. Look, so from working in your book, Scott, I've realized the mess that I have. It's not mess; it's the life we have. That's something I'm talking to my son and my wife about my passwords, my bank accounts. Just knowing where things are, because only we know our mess, as you say. It's so true. I had a friend, Karen, who had this idea to create that folder. Create the folder and actually sell it. As a service. In other words, I'm sure she hasn't done it yet, because I don't know how you copyright or protect that as yours, because anyone can create something similar.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
But I think that we need to normalize this conversation, like you say, long before the time comes. That's what preparation really is, right? That way, it's not luck. It's not with distress. It's not with pressures of time. It's not in the way of the things that really matter. I think there's something that Mike said, which I think is important in that sense. Preparing, like Scott lays it. Scott lays it, allows worldly concerns to be addressed rather than be left in confusion, and often frustrating, so painful for people who are left behind. It's actually the kind of responsible thing to do. That's a fact, right?
It is.
Many of us, I don't know whether we're suspicious of what some might read our accounts if we share the password, but it's not about sharing, it's about having it written down somewhere.
Yes.
Having written down somewhere so that people can actually know the people that matter, the ones who are left behind, the ones who have to, work on what you leave behind. Yeah.
If I may share a small anecdote, any place that was mentioned earlier. So I have a friend of mine who many years ago, probably about 7 or 8 years ago now, their mum and dad owned a care home with the son and daughter. They all worked in their management and had care team, very successful, worth about £2 million in GBP. And they managed the care home, lived on site. It was a couple of acres. They lived in a property, I think it was like an old cottage or a farm on the site. So it was their home, it was their business, it was their life. And the son and daughter were probably in their late 20s, early 30s between them. And they were the management team. And several years into the journey of the property, and the business. Their mum and dad tragically died together in an accident, in a motor vehicle accident, and instant life was gone. So there was no opportunity to plan or prepare. And they were friends of mine, so I was watching the journey evolve and obviously sadly unravel. And it came to their attention several months in that the mum and dad had thought they'd planned and prepared. They'd put the property into certain names, and they believed it was all planned and executed correctly. But because it was worth over £2 million, there was an inheritance tax to pay, which again is a UK thing. It may happen around the world. So they had to pay an inheritance tax prior to inheriting the business, the property, and the building. So they believed because there were shareholders in the company that they had certain rights to just continue managing and running the company. And unfortunately, that was not the case. So very similar to the intestate rule, they did have a will in this case, but they just pretty much said, we leave everything to our son and daughter, the business, the house, the property, the land. And unfortunately, what happened was that got unraveled, and they had to pay an inheritance tax in advance of releasing the £2 million worth of asset. And inheritance tax in the UK is around 40%. So they had to basically pay an £800,000 bill prior to getting back a £2 million asset. And unfortunately, they didn't have it. They couldn't realise it. They tried to then put a loan and a mortgage against the house. Because it wasn't in their name, it was in mum and dad's name, despite them being deceased. They couldn't then raise the necessary capital or asset value. So very unfortunately, they lost their mum and dad. Within the same year, they lost the business, they lost their home, and they lost their property. They lost everything.
It's a shocker, my friend. It's a proper shocker. Sam and Miss Angelica, you can speak again before we go, right? Of course. Now, I see you put a comment in the chat, Sam. So if you want to say something, then just unmute yourself. Then I'll give you the mic.
Yeah, I was just saying that. Thank you so much, Scott. You know, a lot of what you said is great word, and that, as I've said before, I can't add anybody. So I was just saying, can you add me from LinkedIn so I can connect with you?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, look, I'll connect you in a group chat. That's the easiest way, right?
Yeah, that's even better.
And then you two can work to connect and take it from there. You know, Scott, look, that's such a huge point, right? So one day it dawned on me. So I did property. I still do. I'm trying to get rid of the last one. That lesson you're talking about. It dawned on me that my kids cannot afford the inheritance tax. Never. Not in a month of Sundays. You know, because not everyone knows how it really works. You know, so I decided I'm going to sell all the properties. Yeah, that's it. That's the answer. You know, and now do what you're saying, Mike. You know, which is the same in the UK. You know, put your money in a trust. That avoids inheritance tax.
Yes.
But it keeps the assets in the family. That means it can't be blown and lost to someone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my kids marry or divorce. That's time. But no, it's such an important point. You know, it's part of the preparing, as you say. And you know, if we don't talk about these things now, only trouble can come, right? Only trouble comes further down the road.
Yeah, it's the complexities, Annie. It's the understanding or not, because none of us, unless we are legal practitioners, I'm certainly not a lawyer, but my learns have been phenomenal. So again, I have a friend they're together, they have a house together, a business together, they have children together, they are not married. And we've had a discussion where they believed that when they die, everything will go to the other party. And I said, that's actually not the case. Even though your will stipulate.
Stop it. No, this is learning that this is why we have to learn this thing.
Yeah.
You know, one day my financial advisor sat me down, right? And it's like, so Annie, all your assets, Alan Norris's name is, right? He said, Annie, so all your assets in your wife's name. I'm like, yeah. Because it makes it easier for tax, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know that if you die, it goes to her kids. Everything goes to her kids. And you might be homeless the next day. Yes. I'm like, He's like, yeah, that's how it works then. You know, because you're not married. I'm like, the common law thing, what happened to the common law? He goes, what are you talking about? Right. We had to get married. We got married 2 months later. So it's sort of, I love my wife daily. I might not be listening, might be at the door listening for all I know, right? But I'm saying, but it is the truths that we have to learn. There's so many things we have to learn, and so only by starting a conversation now that we begin. I mean, if your friends never had a conversation with you, I mean, everyone never. Unless you get married, unless you have the legal side sorted, the legal preparation is what I call it.
Contract, yeah.
You might just lose everything. Now, I think even a trust, Mike, it's setting up a trust fund or a trust. As part of your estate planning, that's what we call it here. It takes time, and you have to line up. You have to go. It's a legal thing. You have to go to a lawyer. You have to do hours. But no, it's not done overnight. It's not done on the deathbed. It's done long before. Sometimes the will is done long. The conversations are had long before everything. But at least this book gives you the guide to what you truly need to be ask the questions you need to be answering for yourself.
It does, yes. It just touches on those points really of please, I'm begging you, even if for the $2, $3 it may cost, is just use the book as a guide, as an aid memoir to please take action, to have those discussions with your partner, talk about whether that be investments or inheritance, what's our assets worth collectively, what's the business, what would happen even if down to what would happen if you had a stroke, if you were incapacitated and your partner today had a stroke and went into hospital and they could not speak for several months, their bank accounts can be frozen. And it's kind of, well, no, I need to pay the bills. I've got to take the children to school. It doesn't matter. Their bank accounts could be frozen if the right things aren't in place, whether that's a living will or an enduring power of attorney, something like that. There's legalities that just come up and you think that's not possible. I was speaking to somebody yesterday where they've themselves, their children were set to inherit something, and because of the will terminology and the way it's been worded, that there's basically been a challenge under probate law. So the children are potentially set to get very little or nothing. So it is a minefield, and yes, unfortunately, it can be very expensive, but it's just even about asking those questions or cleaning it up whilst you have the possession of power. And it's like I always say, this thing is good for when things go bad, and it's called a contract. So whether that's a business partner, think about your business partner. When you get together, it's like a romance. It's like falling in love, and there's a honeymoon period and everything's perfect. But if the business turns sour, or one of you becomes unwell, or decides they want to exit the business, or they get a divorce, and suddenly their wife's entitled to 50% of your business because they're married, it's kind of like, whoa, hang on, we should have had a shareholders agreement, or we should have planned and prepared better. Well, unfortunately, it's too late because the thing has happened. So it's just having those conversations of what in the event of planning for the worst case scenario. And it can change we talk about, it can change the entire outcome, because whilst the person's dying, it just allows you, enables you to focus on them as both a human being and a spiritual being.
Brilliant, my friend, brilliant. No, so and the book is brilliant as well. And it's 87 pages of genius, my friend.
Thank you.
87 pages. Which is quick, small enough to read in a day. I'm a lazy reader, Scott. So I'm just saying. And I don't like to read big books, but some people like to pack books with loads of pages, and you're like, I can't get through it without falling asleep. But so yours is it's a succinct as well, and to the point. So even Alexis said, I love his book because there's no waffle. I like books like that. Look, Mike, let's get into some of the comments. So Mike said, my friend's death was a challenge to live in the present. I remember I would not know what tomorrow brings. Isn't that so poignant? It really is.
Yeah.
This book is also about living in the present. Don't wait for your deathbed. Don't wait till you die. Before you start thinking about it. Well, when you die, it's a bit too late. Unless I don't know what you believe. I know Scots say there's another thing after death. I'm more of the mind that when I'm gone, I'm gone. Leave me alone. And I don't care what you do with me, frankly. You do as you wish. If there is another phase, Scott, I'll be looking at them, hopefully laughing. They're tortured by it. Well, we didn't ask him, and we don't know whether this is what he wants.
I think
You know,
that in itself is a whole nother topic there. I think there's
it
a
really
2-hour
is.
session talking
It
about
really is.
synchronicities and orbs and angels and angel numbers and Santa Claus and the
All
Tooth
those
Fairy and the
things.
Easter Bunny. We've had those conversations, yeah.
Yeah, like all those things. I mean, Mike reminds us somewhere about living in the present whilst thinking about the chronology of time. Things, things will happen. But the imperative is to touch your heart and to touch your mind. It's about having compassion, kindness, being present. Mike talks a lot about that.
Yeah.
That's what we need to be in the final moment. And maybe that's what we need to be through life, full stop, right? Actually, be interested in supporting others.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that, Annie, because sorry to interrupt. There is no tomorrow. Tomorrow never exists. And you say, well, of course it does. It actually doesn't. Yesterday doesn't exist either. The only thing that exists is now. So there is no tomorrow. You can plan for tomorrow.
It's true. It's true. I've had this argument with my friend Scott.
Yeah.
I know you're right. Of course, I know you're right. I'm saying the version of tomorrow happens. It's whether I'm here or not.
Yes.
And that's what I've learned. Tomorrow will happen for sure. It's whether I am here in this form, in this way, in myself as I am now. Because, you said, I might have a stroke tonight, and suddenly tomorrow is a whole different thing, right? But tomorrow, otherwise, why would we make a plan for tomorrow? But that's different conversation as well, Scott. I wish I had more rooms between now and launch, but we're done, right?
Yeah.
So the root of happiness is happenstance. I like that.
I like that.
Joy. Joy is deeper, love is deeper still. I agree with you on that one, my friend. It really is. It's love for the people in our lives. So thanks a lot, Mike. So in the US, the 5-year rule for trust, particularly in Medicaid planning, requires the asset be transferred into an irrevocable trust at least 5 years before applying for Medicaid benefits to avoid penalties. Them's the rules, right? 5 years. Now, there's a 7-year gifting law and a rule here in there, Scott.
It's changed now. That the 7-year rule arguably is no rule at all. Some say it was a 7-year rule, and if there are things around care homes and trusts where you can, and if after 7 years it's automatic because it was to do with taxation, and 7 years, every 7 years that data is removed or deleted. And actually, some people say no, that there is no 7-year rule anymore. It's effectively been revoked. So if the Treasury decides that they want to go back far enough and look into your affairs financially, and that you've knowingly or unknowingly attempted to avoid paying tax in a certain way on a certain thing, then they can actually go right back to day dot, 20 years if they want.
So what do we do now? So there's no, well, put it in a trust is the only way forward, Reeds, is what it sounds like.
Trust, yeah, absolutely. Gifting things, you can gift them early and pay gift tax. So 10% in the UK, it's typically. So if you wanted to gift your properties to your children, you can gift them and hold them in trust at the same time. So you can benefit from maybe the rental income now, but the rent can be paid to the trust. You can become the trustee, and then the trustee is still getting paid the money. You can gift the properties under deed of transfer to your children, but they would then pay 10% tax on the gift itself. So, and that's not an avoidance, but it is an avoidance to some degree of inheritance tax. So there are ways around it.
Hopefully there's ways around it. I mean, that's one that I need to go and think about. So that was my plan. That's most people's plan.
Yeah, selling up, obviously, as you've mentioned, liquidizing everything into cash. That's ultimately where I'm heading. So my plan was originally to grow a portfolio, live off that retirement as the income. Section 24 rulings in the UK and taxation just destroyed that for landlords particularly. And then more and more people are setting up limited companies. Now that's becoming more difficult in the UK. So many people are now cashing out for some degree or even moving abroad. Dubai, particularly the States, there's a lot of people who are leaving the country, especially some of the super wealthy and the wealthy, because of the tax rules around property and assets. just holding assets is almost frowned upon.
Yeah, it's about planning, as you say, Scott, for sure. And Michael, of course, you're right as well. Consult your local certified estate planner for a tax lawyer. That's the conversation you want to be having with the right person, my friend. We all do. Even when you think you have no assets, have the conversation, because you soon find out that you do have assets.
Yeah,
and you have things that you can pass on.
Even things like a death in service. So many people in their contract might not be aware of their employer. They may have a death in service contract where if they die whilst being employed, not die at work, they can sometimes realise 2.5 or 3 times their salary. And you may only be 20 or 30 years old. You do have assets. So ultimately, the average salary in the UK is about 30,000, circa 34. So 3 times that is nearly, close to £100,000. So you do have assets, you do have cash. You may not benefit from it, sadly, because you're no longer with us, but that could go to your family and your friends or your children. So even understanding that or knowing that can be put in your will, and your wishes can be relied upon to be followed through, provided that there's a will there.
Thank you so much, Scott. Look, we've covered a lot today.
Yeah.
If anyone is unsure or missed anything we said, my friends, the replay is always there on my YouTube, right? It's always there. Don't watch it on LinkedIn. DM me. I'll send you my YouTube link, and then my YouTube channel. And watch it there instead. It's much better. It's better for you, better for me. Better for me anyway, at least, right? Now, Scott, we'll cover a lot. So 2 hours. That's a long time to keep talking, but this is any party. This is what happens, right? Yes, but I thank all my friends who've shown up today. And I think it's always it's more than a privilege. I'm genuinely touched. I'm grateful always that you give me your time. Hopefully you will connect with Scott as well. And connect with Scott, but don't wait for the book necessarily. Connect with Scott and find out who he is, and he also find out who you are and what you do as well. Right? You never know. Unless you have conversations, nothing moves. Of course, I hope you join us again next Friday for our next event, because the launch is the next week after that, on the 17th.
Yes.
Have you enjoyed it, Scott? Please say yes.
Thank you so much. No, I appreciate everybody, the comments, the support, the love. Genuinely, thank you. It's I was a little bit nervous. It's my first gig. I've spoken before, but it's kind of, there's a little bit of an imposter syndrome there, because the book was written to help other people, but to actually sit and then talk about the book and take some credibility for it and kudos, it's kind of, it's a small degree of imposter syndrome, but thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your support, and much appreciated, Annie. Thank you.
You're no imposter, my friends. You're no imposter whatsoever. I tell you that for nothing, right? Now, those who can talk about their books, they're the ones who really have impact in my eyes. Because that's where book really begin to understand. Jay, I see you, my friend. Thank you so much. You're dead. You're dead. Well, I don't want to use the word dead, but you're right, Jay. People tend to avoid the subject all of their lives. It's usually the family members to figure out, what happens after they're gone, right?
Yeah, correct.
But thank you. Jay is a master storyteller. Literally, he's the specialist. He's written his book. So the rules of engagement and storytelling. Glad you're here, Jay. Thank you so much. You're the amazing one, Jay. You're the amazing one. So do connect with Scott, my friends. I'm going. There's a book launch tonight. So Jades is launching a book with an AI auntie. It's teaching African kids how to start a business in AI. So if that fascinates you, DM me. I'll send you the link to join. It's a couple of hours. So that's what I definitely want you to join. Scott, there's a task you have to do, my friend, which I didn't tell you, but it's part of your job, right? You're gonna have to go to the comments and go through the comments. No, not now. So literally, after the event, because comment page. So everything they've said will still be there. So you can respond. You can respond to each person, and anyone who you resonate with, then connect with them if you can.
Definitely,
right?
Thank you.
Right, and those who you want to meet with. But my friends in the audience, you can do the same thing, right? So go to the comments, but more importantly, speak to Scott, speak to Sam, speak to Miss Angelica, speak to Mr. Calm. So let's be real friends. That's what this platform enables us to do now. But thank you, Scott. Thank you, my friend. Look, you enjoy your evening. Before the evening's out, the print book will be published, I'm sure.
Lovely. Thank you. I'll get back to that now. And thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate you all, and thank you, Annie. And obviously, have a great weekend, everybody. God bless.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Every step forward is a new beat to your drama. She's success with Global.Media.com. And celebrate it with or without champagne or rum. She's success with Global.Media.